The Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank began operation in 2016. Is the AIIB trying to rival the World Bank? Is the AIIB China's version of global multilateralism? With 103 members and counting, does it fulfill China's goals as well as all the others? Tune into an exclusive dialogue with the inaugural chief economist of the AIIB, Erik Berglof, with Hey China. AIIB was born as a product of China's Grand Belt and Road Initiative. Belt and Road Initiative so far has invested $725 billion across the whole region. AIIB invested $21 billion. It's a drop in the ocean. What is the role of the AIIB in this entire BRI initiative?
Well, I think it's, it happened to come about at the same time as the Belt and Road Initiative, but it's a very distinct initiative. Some of the projects are part of the BRI, which is, a very amorphous animal. We are so clear what is part and what is not part of the BRI, but the AIIB is a very distinct organization doing projects in all over Asia and also in Africa and Latin America. So I think there is the BRI, but the AIIB has its own agenda.
What is the agenda of the AIIB, please?
Well, the AIIB really wants to be a bank that is part of building the environmentally sound economies, want to be part of the transition to net zero carbon, want to be part of bringing in modern digital technology into infrastructure, want to build the infrastructure for tomorrow. And anything we build today is absolutely critical that it brings in the latest technology that is flexible enough to absorb future developments in technology. So, and particularly in Asia now, so much of the world's infrastructure will be created in Asia. How we do it is going to be absolutely essential. And we want to be part of making sure that it's done at the very highest standards.
So you just talked about the AIIB's mission is to help with the global sustainability, including investing in the digital infrastructure of the 21st century. Now, let me ask you a very specific question. If Huawei today wants to invest in Mozambique, would AIIB invest with it?
Well, I think the question here is what is being done, not who does it. And if there is an interesting project in Africa, for example, which really brings in new digital technology into infrastructure, or even digital technology in itself. Again, it's what we are trying to do, not what is the company or the organization that we're working with.
Your home country, Sweden, is also a prospective foundational member of the AIIB. If your home company, Ericsson, decides to invest in Mozambique in this digital infrastructure, would AIIB back Ericsson?
Absolutely. I mean, I can see why. I mean, I don't think that's been that. And again, it's very much the objective to bring in private sector investment. We want to have 50% of all our investments with the private sector.
So Erik, when AIIB was founded back in 2015, all these founding members joined, but at the time, people were talking about building rails, roads, ports, traditional infrastructures. That was the very reason that these countries joined. They didn't join because China was going to reach carbon neutral. That didn't happen till a month ago. They didn't join because of the digital infrastructure, because that only happened later. So are you saying that the AIIB's mission and its investment objectives are changing because of China's changing objectives?
No, I don't think. I think it's about the world's changing objectives. It should be high tech. It should be environmentally sound. It should be contribute to lowering carbon emissions. Even more so, we need to look at really basic healthcare, and that I think is something that the countries that joined from the beginning and the countries that joined over time very much welcome.
Of course, the BRI and the AIIB have been heavily criticized by many people to contribute to the debt trap of African nations and other poorer countries in the world. How do you respond to this criticism, and what will you do in your new position as chief economist to alleviate some of these concerns?
Well, I think I don't think AIIB has been a part of creating any debt traps, and debt sustainability is absolutely one of the most important criteria. We don't want to achieve the development goals at the expense of financial stability. We have only just started investing, and we have to be very mindful of how the fiscal situation of the debt situation of our clients.
Currently, Erik, some 103 governments around the world are members of the AIIB, but the United States and also Asia's second largest economy, Japan, are not part of it. Do you hope that this will change, maybe also after the US elections, if Biden becomes president?
Well, I'm probably not the right person to ask this question, but I think everyone in the organization would welcome, both Japan and the United States.
And so obviously we try to portray AIIB as a bank, a World Bank it's a bank, EBRD as a bank, but we all know that there is something beyond global finance. There is something that's deeply geopolitical about it. And so when the US set up the post-World War financial institutions, the multilateral financial institutions, the US was 50% of the global GDP at the time. China today, 17% of global GDP. Don't you think China started a little bit early?
First of all, I think it's, as you would expect me to say, I think, was it too early? I don't know. China had tried to get more influence in the existing institutions, and when it saw that it couldn't get the influence it wanted, it created its own institution, and now I think it has sort of graduated into being a pure, truly multilateral institution with 103 members and working like other multilateral institutions. So that's, of course, geopolitics is part of reality, and something that, of course, affects any institution working in the global space and even in the national space. But I think it came at a good time, and I think there's a very good reasons to expect it to make a contribution in addition to the existing institutions.
Cash so far hasn't been a problem for the AIIB, but how worried are you that funding and sources of funding could dry up now because of the coronavirus pandemic?
These emerging countries have, particularly emerging economies, but also some developing economies, have had reasonable access to international capital markets. They have been able to do things both in the monetary policy and sometimes even fiscal policy that we didn't think they could do. I think we have to be prepared that the system will need additional capital, additional resources. So the IMF have done what the multilateral development institutions have done, and I think it shows that there's still a lot that needs to be done by these institutions. So we need to scale up very much. I think all the institutions were good at responding quickly, but now it's a long game. This is something that we will have to live with for several years.
Erik, what do you say to your old colleague, Robert Zoellick? Is the AIIB trying to compete with the World Bank?
I wouldn't call Bob Zoellick my colleague, but he was certainly someone I looked up to very much. It's not like that we have too much, there's not enough to do at the global level. There are so many challenges, and if we're going to deal with the transition to net zero carbon, if we are going to build better resilience to existing institutions, including AIIB, will not have enough resources. So if we can create a new institution that comes from the emerging world and adds capital, I don't think it's competition. We invest in many places together with the World Bank, and the AIIB and the EBRD, but particularly with the World Bank, because the World Bank has a lot of knowledge, a lot of resources, particularly in health, as we are looking at what we can do in health.
So recently at the Bond Summit, China's central bank, Mu Changchun, the person in charge of China's sovereign digital currency project, said now clearly that cross-border payments with the China's sovereign digital currency is possible. Is AIIB any plan to be able to invest and lend with China's sovereign digital currency?
Not that I know. As far as I know, AIIB has not been contemplating that.
Erik, China is about to release the 14th five-year plan from 2021 to 2025, obviously focusing on the fight against climate change, technology, innovation, and so on. From your perspective, which are the core ingredients? Where would you like to see reforms and new policies?
Be at zero carbon before 2060 and to be reduced carbon emissions already in 2030. I think that is a major commitment, but China has been is the largest emitter of carbon and carbon dioxide. Even curbing the growth is difficult, and the idea that by 2060 China will be able to actually reach zero carbon is truly revolutionary and will be something that would really is a game changer.
Erik, when Shirley and I met you the last time, that was at the World Economic Forum in Davos in January. Nobody knew about the economic repercussions of COVID-19. Now, of course, the outlook looks much different. The IMF projects a global GDP contraction of 4.1% this year, and then 5.2% growth, a rebound for next year. What is your outlook, and maybe especially for the Chinese economy, what is your outlook for that?
Global economy contracts truly globally. Even in the global financial crisis, it was really focused on advanced economies and a few emerging economies. Now it's truly global. China will be the only major economy to be growing this year. Of course, we are not seeing any end to the first wave of COVID, and very likely, almost inevitable, that the US will have a second wave next year. So I think those numbers now look very optimistic. And my own view is that COVID is something that we will have to live with for a long time, and particularly in the emerging and developing world. We're talking about several years.
Talking about the EBRD, where you worked previously, Erik, you launched an initiative back then, which was called the Vienna Initiative, which aimed at mitigating the impacts of the global financial crisis in 2008. Now that we are facing the biggest crisis since the Great Recession because of the COVID-19 pandemic, are you planning to launch any new initiative to help the global economy now with the AIIB?
At that time, it was about making sure that the financial systems of Central and Eastern Europe didn't collapse. It was a common interest of all the banks that were operating in that region, were a common interest of the countries, of course, but also the countries of the parents, the home countries of the parent banks wanted to be part of this. And of course, the international organizations like IMF and EBRD could be part of convening all those. And I think it's that spirit that I want to see also in Asia. And if I can play a small role in that, that would be fantastic.
China wants to co-lead the world. Do you agree?
Well, I mean, you should ask China, not me. I think if I look at the AIIB, I think it is a signal or a sign that China wants to be part of building the global institutions, and I think it wants to play a bigger role. Co-leading is a very strong world, and right now I think no one is leading the world.
If there is no global leadership, that basically means global anarchy. How dangerous is that for the world economy?
Well, I think there are grades in between global anarchy and global leadership, but I think we are unfortunately closer to global, much closer to anarchy than I would like, and I think that has implications that we are seeing now playing out, in the COVID pandemic, and it's also a lack of leadership that is truly accountable. There's a lot of need to improve global leadership.
Erik Berglof, Chief Economist of the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank. Thank you so much for your time. Please subscribe Hey China on YouTube, Facebook, everywhere else.